Hello everybody, my name is CraigBennettII, and today we're going to be doing another Star Citizen video, and this is a airspace look at the ships, how realistic is it and whatnot. Now, as far as things goes, because of past few videos, it's kind of starting to repeat a pattern on a few persistent problems across games. I'm going to try to look at the inside because for those of you who don't know, I actually have flown small aircraft. I can't really say anything too much about large aircraft, but one big thing that you got to keep in mind when you take a look at what a pilot needs, it is max viewability of things. And the purpose of this is more than less that the more that you can view, the more data you have, and the more you have to work with. Now, if we take a look at some of the other things within the ship, how logical it is, how good it is, and whatnot, if it was realistic. Because one big thing I want to point out in this particular video is there is a lot of waste in this ship, and something that a lot of people don't really recognize because in your day-to-day life, you don't really have to worry about it. So you throw a box in a car, in like a heavy box or whatever. You don't really think about it. You may take it back and forth to work or school or whatever your activity is. You don't really think about it and say, oh, at the end of the week I need to do whatever with this with it. Well, whenever you're taking a spaceship or a rocket and going from atmosphere to space, the thing is the more weight per pound, the more cost in fuel, and the cost exponentially increases. So the more waste you have, even human body type of weight, the more the cost it is just to get into space, and that means more cost overall. So realistically speaking, yes, this could be some mythical fuel where it really doesn't matter, kind of like car fuel now in regular cars. But the thing is if we were going by things I know today, there's a lot of ways. And a great example of that is there is 3 chairs, one pilot chair and 2 co-pilots, and you realistically only need to have 1 co-pilot. There's no real reason to have 2 co-pilots. In fact, technically there's 3 co-pilot places on the ship. So one big thing I want you to note is take a look at this layout. So you can easily have something fit over there, something fit over there, and a small thing fit over there. Just note that for 3 or 4 seconds as we go to the upper bridge. And you will quickly see those same things. We can have that downstairs, and a smaller version of that in the middle right there, because that middle thing, all it is like storage or whatever. At this time, they might change it to something else, which would mute this point. But anyways, the thing is this entire bridge is redundant, because a lot of this could be down and whatever. And then, but when we get into the co-pilot chairs, this is another co-pilot station. They call it command station. At this time of the game, it does everything that a regular pilot station does. If they do something else with it, then that's one thing, but unless they change that, it's a redundant feature, and it's waste, which equals more poundage and costs more money. Plus, on top of that, you gotta keep in mind, just to make some of the stuff, you got manpower, costs and raw materials and stuff like that, so that increases overall cost beyond the fuel cost to just get into space. So with that, then we get into another problem, just the layout of some things. So if we take a look at it, we got escape pods here on the upper deck, right? Seems fine, whatever. You know, you got you can have an engineer over here, and then you have your drone station over here, which, you know, it's all fine. But the problem is all your escape pods, at least on this the 2 levels, are right here. So you got 6 escape pods, and realistically what should be happening is half of the escape pods need to be down here. Now, realistically, you should have some escape pods down here because the majority of the time that people are going, the crew's going to be spinning is going to be in this area or the chow hall across the way. This is actually very important because the fact of the matter is the you don't want crew in areas that they don't need to be. You don't want crew to be around the engines if they don't need to be there. You don't want them around cargo unless they need to be around cargo. You don't want them to be in areas unless they need to be there. And if they don't need to be anywhere, or if it's like their break time or whatever it may be, then you kind of want them here unless if, you know, maybe it's engineering or got a little break area in their engineering room type of thing. So with that, they're going to be in this area for the most part. So let's just take a look at that. Let's just say person is in the shower area, you know, over here, whatever, and everything goes fine. Then you get alert, say you need to abandon ship. So you have to go through one door, go around all these beds, go through the second door, go up the stairs, go up through a third door, go down the hallway. And by the way, the captain's right here, so they're not even protected. And there's a med bay there, which has to go through 2 or 3 doors, if I recall right. So go through another door, and then call the elevator if it's not already down here. Then go up to the bridge, and probably at this time you're probably going to jump up here instead of waiting for the elevator because it's, you know, emergency, you're going to die. And then you go through that door and you get to your escape pod and do your thing. It's in a bad location. Now, realistically, if because I can tell you what they were going for, at least the designers, what it appears that they were going for. Because keep in mind that you can do things like this, you can hide things fairly easily. So they're using the space as a basically warm, cozy feeling. The lighting's different compared to pretty much the rest of the ship. The atmosphere is more friendly. You got different colors and all these other stuff. So psychologically, it warm. It makes a person feel good, and it helps them relax. Because, in case you don't know it, some restaurants, fast food joints, and stuff like that, they use certain color lighting to actually make people quicker, because you don't want, like, say someone at a fast food joint standing there and, you know, mosey around, that you want them to move through, get through. More customers means more money type of situation. And there's other places like that, like some manufacturing places and stuff like that, so it'll drive you up the wall. But that is there, just the lighting does simple things like that. So the color light here basically forces the person psychologically to slow down and relax and stuff like that. Believe it or not, just look it up if you don't understand it or don't believe it. But with that, they couldn't put any escape pods open and about here, because it was put a sense of danger in the area that's supposed to be safe. So how would you solve for this? Well, first things first is you would find some room. It really doesn't matter where. Probably like right there. I don't know what this thing is, but you'll thicken up a wall. It could even be like right here. But anyways, you'll thicken up a wall, and let's just use this as example since it's flat. And it'll look exactly like that when the doors close. Maybe like a little button over here or whatever. You press the button, and then it reveals the escape pod. So that's the interesting thing, is you can do small things like that. Keep the atmosphere, keep all that. It'll be a little bit of a bump on the outside, but you know that you can put your escape pods there, and it'll keep people safe and keep them in a closer area. If you don't want to put them there, there's other spots like down these hallways, right around here. There's other areas like that where you have a little bit bump on the outside again, but for the most part you can hide it by and I don't think that I can open up this, but it will look something like this, where you can tell something's there, but it's not immediate, oh, there is a threat or something. It'd be like behind a door I just never opened. You know there's a escape pod back there, but because you never see it, it's not really a thing. I can die at any moment type of situation. That's all hidden in an area like this. So that could be a important thing that can, if it was realistic, that could save lives. And if I was, like, say, for example, a contractor inspecting the ship for a company to buy, 1,000 or so of them, that's one thing I would definitely put on there, because that is a danger, having escape pods that far away from sleeping in shower areas. Because again, look how many doors it took just to get there and back. Now, another thing I found, and this is just a common sense thing, and just I can see how people would overlook this because most people don't have 3D printers and whatnot. I'm assuming that this is like an all-in-one machine. This is an engineering room, by the way, but I'm assuming that this is a all-in-one machine. And if you take a look at the control panel down here, if the camera starts messing up, you will see its power and whatnot. The power level purely tells me that this is either a laser machine or a CNC, or a laser and CNC. But looking at the thing and just looking around, it kind of looks like it might do some 3D printing also, so it could be an all-one machine. Technically, that is possible. That is possible, but it would be very, very hard. But when you're spacefaring type of society, it probably would be very easy to do. So with that, anyone who's dealt with 3D printers, repairing stuff, building parts and whatever, one thing that you'll note that you might be repairing bigger objects. Basically print out whatever that fits in the area and then move it to the side and then print out some more and put it all together, and there you go, you got your object, or you got a repair part for whatever. So here's where the problem comes in. You have a tiny door in how you're supposed to get, like, say for example, if the med bay breaks, you're out in middle space and you need to make a repair. What are you going to do? You can't bring the entire med bay up here, the bed up here. And the fact is you can't take the entire bed out of here. That means that you're going to do piece by piece by piece. Bigger chance of things can get missing, bigger chance of a problem. So my solution to this would have been simple. There's no reason to have this protected. They could have easily had it where this is a separate door into itself. Like, you can keep that door, it's fine. But you can have a separate door right here, or you can have a separate door right here. And the interesting thing is because this is an internal thing, unless there's a structural need, this could literally been canvas. And it's just one of those things that if you look close enough, you'll notice, okay, this might not be real or whatever. But for the most part, it gives the privacy and whatnot, but it allows for doors. I'm not saying make it in canvas. I'm saying that it can be something stupid like that if this is not a structural piece. If it's a structural piece, they could have just strengthened up the area up there and then made it into like some type of sliding door type of deal, like a roll-up door. So the Bandu Defender is a great example of what they could do done there. So that's a big thing. And this area, it's a drone bay, whatever. It's kind of understandable why they have it, because of explosions. But this being an engineering area, and this being the only engineering area with the repair machines on board, you're probably going to be moving some big objects to it at some point. Especially since you got big doors like that. So you need at least to have something that big or slightly bigger going into there. So that's something to note. Now, as far as things goes, there's other problems and whatever. Like, say, for example, there's no lighting in the landing area right there. But for the most part, it's not like a huge problem. Most of the other problems gets into other common sense issues. Like if we go all the way downstairs, in fact, let's go to the mid area. before we go downstairs to show you one of my biggest problems, which relates to this one. Let's see if we can close it. Hurry up. So it's the med bay where it's located. So note that the pilots were able to come in that area above there, and I'll show you where the people are able to come in from, you know, from planet side. But notice that they actually have to go through a lot of stuff just to get to here. So this is obviously meant for dealing with contaminations. So, you know, if you need to quarantine someone, they can go in here and in theory, the ship's safe. Problem here is, guess what? This is the living area. This is the eating area. The captain is right over there. Their bed is right over there. This is the only entrance into the medical area. This means that for a pilot coming in from up top, if they got someone sick, had something nasty, they actually have to go through an elevator, either one that you saw, go through all around the sidings as you saw there, and then go into the med area. Or if they're coming from planet side, let's just take a look at this. They have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, unless I go through that, it's a little bit shorter, 6 doors, and this is the only way on and off, and I'll show you in a second. Let's assume that they just take the shortcut. So 1, take the elevator, which obviously has no restriction. There's no filtering. There's no stopping. So you got to wait for the elevator to go up. Again, it's immediate airflows. Nothing stopping any virus from spreading. And then go around and do that. But again, no matter which way you're doing it, you're going near the habitation zones, which you want to stay away. What they could have done is somewhere in the middle, somewhere around here, they could have easily made a elevator that goes directly to here from the bottom side up, upside down, and made it where in order to come into the ship, you had to pass through, not in the actual medical area. They could have sectioned off a small thing, get rid of this bed, maybe make a little door there to get out and whatever. But they could have easily made it where you had to come around the medical area, so it will prevent the rest of the ship from getting sick, and they can sterilize just that one little bit, which would have been easy enough, instead of having half the crew sick, if not the entire crew. And if you're wondering where they could put an elevator down below, let's see if we'll go down a little bit. With no change at all, what they could have done is put it somewhere around here. And what they could have easily done is just had one of these where instead of it, the only place it goes down into the cargo bay and then up, they could easily had it where the third option for one of these, whichever made sense, to go straight up. And realistically, what I would say is have a side area that goes all the way down to the ground, which would make a little bit more sense. Now let's check out the outside. So they got a spacious cargo bay, and also they got this area for trucks and whatnot, which is kind of nice. But the problem is this is the only way on and off planet side. So this causes problems into itself. So let's do a realism check here. Obviously this is a game, so this would never happen. But the only way on the ship from planet side is this small button. What happens if this button gets damaged at all? Do you see an access panel anywhere that anyone can open up and get the cargo bay door open? I don't. So that creates a problem into itself. The only way on and off is controlled by that one thing, plus 2 heavy hydraulic lifts, and then this entire motorized thing, and each independent moving part can be clogged or cause other problems, especially with how large and how heavy that is. That is something nuts. That can literally strand you on a planet if everybody's off and and that button gets messed up or the door gets messed up, and that's that. In my opinion, what it should have had is, again, a elevator that goes straight down, and that way you can get out without any problem. Also make sure it goes through the med bay area, and that way you can quarantine a person much easier. So as far as that goes, if you're going through space side though, there is 2 ways to get in. You got that down there plus this up here. But again, if you're on the planet side, you're not climbing up this thing. This thing's absolutely huge, and there's too many overhangs for you to tackle to realistically go up there. So that's something to note. Now let's take a look at the aerospace side of this. How would this work in the real world, flying in space and atmospheres and all the other junk? So one big thing that you may notice is a problem that I point out in pretty much any other space vehicle, whether it's this or Elite Dangerous or whatever, is openings. Now the interesting thing is a lot of people might think I'll be tackling on that these openings are death, yada yada yada, because the thing is, for those who don't know, any opening that you have is potential of problems. Liquid goes in, if it turns into a solid, like you got different type of chemicals, different ranges of when they turn to solid or gas. But a liquid goes in, or even a solid, but it turns into different, like gas or whatever. It creates problems. Gas expands like crazy. You can actually create an explosion, and this in itself can blow out parts into itself, blow out wings, blow out engines and stuff like that if gas gets in the right place. It can also crack parts with ice and stuff. If you want to test that, throw a Coke bottle in your freezer, just place it in the freezer, let it freeze and see what happens. And another thing is just take a filled up glass water bottle and let it freeze and see what happens. So, and make sure that the glass bottle is closed. So with that, you can easily see from this demonstration, so by the way, make sure you can clean it, you can easily see that this can cause problems into itself. These, however, other than these things, I have no idea what they're for, but a lot of these, I'm not seeing useless holes like I did with the Freelancer. Honestly, a lot of these, other than these mysterious spots, and even that, it kind of looks like it's on purpose for a particular purpose. The fact is you can just throw heaters on there. Since it's not that many holes, it's very, very exact location, and this ship is big enough to do that. And basically, you can get away with at least keeping the liquid or solid or whatever the same temperature that it is, instead of it actually turning from a liquid to a solid or a liquid to a gas, and it would actually create problems into itself from the buildup. So with that, it basically has some advantages with that, where you can just throw heaters like along the sides there, which will prevent some of that, and you just clean it out later. Now, as far as problems with aerospace wise, the energy wise, one of the biggest problems I'm finding with this is, where does the energy go into this? And the reason why this is a problem is this front area, from the front to back front, because keep in mind, when you're flying this in the atmosphere, your energy is going from the thrusters to the forward, so back to front, and then the atmosphere pushing against the ship, which is the front to the back, and the energy is going to build up at some midpoint somewhere, depending on the forces, which one's greater. And what's going to end up happening is, if you got any parts that can break, that is the time that it will most likely break, and you'll have other problems. Now, realistically, they'll never go out this far, or at least they shouldn't go out this far unless it was designed poorly. But one thing I did find that was interesting is these joints. Now, it might solve itself due to how big they are, and it might be sealed and like alright on there. But every time you have anything that can make a motion like this, where this can actually turn or whatever, that means that you got a potential breaking part. And with that's just an area that energy could bleed off on. Now, due to the size, unlike normal things like the freelancer, something the size of that, because this is so huge, you can actually plan for that and deal with that. What you can do, believe it or not, is something called a sacrificial. In this case, it'd be a sacrificial metal or sacrificial item. And what a sacrificial item is you'll see it in boats and stuff, like zinc bars for the corrosion will happen there before it happens to the motor. In here, we're wanting the energy to crush a certain spot before it crushes anywhere else. So it bleeds off in a very exact location that's easily replaceable. Around here somewhere, if we're expecting that some side-to-side push or some push from the front to the back, some weird thing like that, then what could be designed in there is a panel or two comes off of it, and like you don't see it here, but it could be pretty much anywhere that the energy would be at its greatest before it's a joint. And you can use a sacrificial metal, so the two pressures. So say, for example, if it was from the back to front, from the back that you're worried about, when those two meet, those two forms of energy meets, it crushes the sacrificial object before it destroys a wing or something like that. And because it's sacrificial, you just basically take it off, replace it, cheap, easy. And because it's metal, we can melt it down and run with it. It's very easy to deal with. Now, as far as the drivability over atmosphere, so atmosphere to space, space to atmosphere type of thing, space to space, I'm never worried about. As I mentioned in past videos, you can literally have the Bohr cube out here, which would be perfectly fine. In fact, in my opinion, maybe one of the only ones to think this, but the Bohr cube is probably the perfect space only ship, because you get maximum use of all space because it's in the cube, and you don't need any other shape. You don't really need a particular shape because you're not going through atmosphere. Of course, when you go through some type of gas nebula or whatever, it's hard to say how much of a shape you need, but of course, something like that, you may need some type of shape. But with that, can this fly from atmosphere to space, space to atmosphere? And I'm going to say no. Now, of course, I don't have access to models, software, or hardware to test this. I can't throw this in one tunnel. But the fact is due to just the same thing with the Anaconda with Elite Dangerous, the wingspan is so not there, basically. What should have happened, if I was in charge of the design on this, what should have happened to make it easier to fly through the atmosphere, instead of this turning like some weird way for the legs to go down, what should have happened is, if the legs are up, then basically this turns out. And I think, by, again, I don't have models and stuff to play with, but I think if you had this piece that's right now from here to there, I think if you had it out, extending out from the wing, and had that part of the wing, I think that could have easily took care of the problem where it could have, flown through the atmosphere. Of course, that added some weak points and stuff, and that would have been looked at, but I think that is the only way to save it, where it could go through the atmosphere with this particular model. Of course, you got a turret here, and you got to figure something out with that. And you can probably just done a remote turret, and there you go. But with that, I think that's the only way to actually fix that with the current model. But since you can't do that, it's pointless, and it's just easier to say this is a bad ship to go through atmosphere, at least from the looks of it. Everything else seems fine, because the fact of the matter is, just like the Anaconda on Elite Dangerous, you're using raw fuel to get off ground and to move anywhere. Otherwise, you're going to fall fairly fast, like a rock. So since you don't want that, you need something that can glide a little bit, and this honestly cannot really do it. Only way I would say it's possible, and it's obviously not designed for it, is by using the front and the back as a way to glide, but you would have no momentum since there's no thrusters on either side. And again, the ship is not made for that, and that is a bad maneuver to do unless if you absolutely must. And is one of those things that even if you were prepared to do it, I don't, because it's not made for it, I don't think it would survive. So, you know, with all that being said, this is a really good ship. It's actually one of my favorite ships in the game so far, at least that I've been in. And the only problem I would say is this is a bad ship when it comes to atmosphere to space. But when it comes to space, this is a great ship. Obviously, could have been a little bit better. You have a lot of redundancy. Could have got rid of that. The second bridge, they could have done quite a bit of difference. Got rid of a crap ton of redundancies and moved things around, because you could have literally gotten rid of that second bridge, got rid of a few other things, and made that into wings. So the poundage wouldn't be any difference, but just made it into longer wings to make it more aerodynamic to be able to go down to the surface level with no problem, come out of the surface with no problem. So with that all in mind, if you got any questions, anything else, then feel free to leave that in the comment section. Figured out this video is long enough. And there's a few things I did leave out on this, but if you want me to cover a different ship in the future, or something maybe on this ship or a previous ship I've done, a very particular thing that you want me to take a look at that I overlooked in the past, then feel free to let me know and I'll take a look at that. Also let me know what games, and specifically what ships and what games that you want me to take a look at, and I will see what I can do there. But anyways, leave a like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next video. Hope you have a great day.